Okay, it's spooky time.
Yeah. It's scary time, Sid.
Yeah.
I'm going to be telling scary stories. And I'm going to go from the light scary ones, and every week, they'll get a little bit scary. But all the stories are all true. You know, either I heard them from people that I trust, and there was other people there that saw things, or things that, I saw along with a few of other people, you know, in nursing homes and in the hospital. So,
I call this Tales from Kate instead of
yeah.
like Tales from the Crypt.
Mhm.
But it's going to be kind of similar.
Yeah. And I got my little witch wig on, Sibs. I
Yeah.
got my witch hair and my little witch hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're witchy.
Yeah. And I got my little witch lantern.
Yeah.
So that I can see the titles now. I have 9 titles, Sibs. And they're all ghost stories. And some of them are really odd, you know. But I'm going to start off, Sibs, with 2. And one of them is what happened to me long time ago, Sibs, when I was 20 years old. And I had to go have 2 surgeries. And while I was in there, my stupid husband that I was married to at the time, he came there and gave me divorce papers. Yeah. Because I didn't want to take care of his family. I wasn't working and I wasn't taking care of them. And once they found out that I really meant it, that I wasn't going to take care of them, then they decided, okay, he needed to get rid of me, so that's what he did. Well, anyway, he never visited me at the hospital or anything like that, but whatever, you know. So anyway, I had to have 2 abdominal surgeries. I had one in March, then I went back the following month and had to have another. So this happened during the second surgery. And while I was on the table, my heart stopped. And I was dead for a while. Not long, but when I died, I didn't see anything scary or nothing. I mean, it was real calm and peaceful, and I didn't see the white light like people say. I didn't see that. I was just there, you know. And what I saw was people, not a lot, but there were people. They were coming and going. They didn't pay me any attention. And I didn't pay them any. And I didn't recognize anybody. And another odd thing was I had no memory of here. I didn't think about being here at all. And I had no idea where I was going. But I was walking. But apparently, I don't know, I guess an instinct kicks in or whatever. And I was just walking. But it was like I knew where I was going. But I didn't. And it was like a really, really bright sunlight. It was like pure white. But you could look at it without, squinting or anything like that. And you could tell something was watching you. There was something else, but you couldn't see what it was. But it wasn't anything bad or anything like that. Like I said, I saw just regular people. Everybody was dressed in pure white. So was I. And I was looking around like, where am I going? But it was like I knew where I was going, but I didn't. And so I'm going, it was like an intersection. And I'm going straight. And as I'm going straight, out of the corner of my eye, I could see someone coming from my left. And I could see if I kept going, we were going to meet. So I kept walking until I got to where he was. And then I saw who it was. And it was Jesus Christ. And I did not look him in the face because I thought that was, I don't know, I instinctually thought it was disrespectful to do that. So I didn't do it. And I just dropped to my knees and I had my hands out like this, but I had my head down, and I said, Lord. And he was talking to me. I don't remember what he said, but I remember his voice, and it was so soft. He had a very soft, gentle manner about him, and he was just very soft spoken. And I could tell, this is just a kind man, very nice. But you could tell there was something else watching. But it wasn't scary or anything. I never felt threatened or afraid or anything. It was very calm. And when he got done talking, I lifted my head just a little bit because I could see his hands, and he was reaching out to touch me. And that's when I woke up. I was set back. And I didn't want to come back. But obviously, I had unfinished business. There was things I had to do. Because at that time, like I said, I was 20. My parents were still alive. Everybody was still healthy. Blah, blah, blah. As time went on, as the years went by, I figured out why I was set back. Because I still had work to do, with elderly people. I would have to go back home to take care of my mom. I would have to get to meet Richard. I would have to, I would get to help Tommy. I'm beginning to see why I was sent back. But like I said, when I was there, the people that were going back and forth, one of the people that I took care of was a priest. He wasn't an older priest, he was a younger one. And he was disabled. And he lived at a seminary. And I went there one weekend to take care of him. This was not too long ago. As a matter of fact, it was right before I came here permanently. Because I had already gone back from the summer. So it was already getting cold up in Pittsburgh. So I have to say that was probably last September, I'm thinking. And I told him, about the dream, and he was just fascinated about that. He wanted to know exactly what it was that I saw, and I told him, I said, people say they see, a light, you're supposed to go towards the light. I didn't see any of that. I was just there. I didn't see that. I didn't see my grandparents. I didn't see none of that. I saw none of that. I didn't see my aunt. I would have liked to, but I guess that, I wasn't going to stay there, so, I didn't need to see him. I mean, I don't know. This is just my theory of what happened. But he was just fascinated by that, because, of course, they know the scripture and all of that. And I told him, I said, yeah, I said, there's people coming and going. Not a lot, but there's people. There's not like one or two. There's like groups of people, but they're just coming and going. Like I said, they didn't pay me any attention. I didn't pay them any attention. I guess they didn't really pay me any mind because I wasn't going to be there long. I guess maybe that's why. Maybe that's why there was nobody really there to meet me except, Jesus. He was the only one, that I recognized. And if you want to know what he looked like, I guess he looked like the painting, but I guess that's our interpretation of him. So that's just what was shown to me, because that's what we think Jesus. Well, nobody really knows, but that's our interpretation. So I guess that's what we're more comfortable with. I really don't know, but it wasn't anything bad. I didn't see anything, nothing. I didn't get that feeling of dread. I didn't get any of that. I didn't hear anything horrible. Nobody was screaming. Like I said, everybody was going like they had their own business to attend to, and that's what they were doing. And like I said, when I was sent back, whatever, I don't remember what he said, but obviously it was you're not supposed to be here yet. There's other things you have to do. So obviously, I've done most of them. I think. Maybe there's more. I don't know, but. He was just so fascinated about that. He wanted to know, did I see God? I was like, nobody sees God. You hear these preachers telling you that's a lie. Nobody goes before God. Nobody. That's not true. Nobody does that. For these people to sit up there and say, oh, I talk to God and I know this and I know that. No, they don't. They're just telling you that. That's a lie. You know, no. Because if you're going to come back and sell God, why? I mean, okay, why would He tell you? Why would He give you knowledge for you to go back and sell when you're getting it for free? Okay, does that sound right to you?
You know, where did he say he had to build a water slide?
Yeah, what the, what? You know, that's just ridiculous. You know, don't give these people your money. You know, look, anybody who has died and come back, everybody's going to have a different experience. Nobody's going to have the same one. You know, I guess it depends on, the kind of life you led or whatever. You know, not everybody's bad. You know, so not everybody's going to see something terrible. You know, I didn't. You know, I was like, whoa. You know, I was looking around. I was Debbie. You know, I was like, ooh. I was looking all around, and it was just pure white, just the brightest white you've ever seen. But you could look at it. It was like staring at the sun, but you didn't have to squint or put your hands up or nothing. You could just look directly at it. It was the purest white I've ever seen. I've never seen anything on earth to compare to that. But you could tell there was something else watching. But like I said, it wasn't anything bad. You know, so I didn't get the feeling of dread or, just a terrible feel. I didn't get any of that. I didn't see anything bad, nothing like that. You know, so that was my experience. But, when I came back, they had me in recovery and everything. And they said I just woke up for a second and then I just went back to sleep again. Do I remember waking up? No. I remember waking up fully. But I don't remember waking up for the little bit of time and then going back to sleep. I don't remember that at all. So. But.
So basically everything had flatlined on the equipment?
Yeah, I was dead.
Wow.
Yeah. I had gone into cardiac arrest. Yeah. For what? I don't know. But, they couldn't explain it, but I came back, and I was, when I figured out what happened, I was kind of sad. Because I was going through so much at the time. I had a dim-witted husband who married me to help take care of his family, which I elected not to do. So, so when I was able to come home, I came home. I didn't have a home. He had backed up a truck and stole me blind. I went back to the apartment. My sister brought me home. And she had left, once I got in the building, she had went on. I waved to her at the door, and then I went on to the apartment. And I tried to put my key in the lock, and it didn't fit. So, I really wasn't feeling all that well, but, I went over to the office, which was just right next door, and they thought I had moved. That's what my husband had told them. They had no idea I'd been in the hospital. I'd been in the hospital for a while. And I told them what happened, and they were like, oh, well, nobody's been in there yet. We'll go and see, if there's something, of yours in there. And we went up in there, and everything was gone. I had nothing. I had no clothes, nothing. So they felt so bad for me, and I was just, and I thought to myself, I came back for this, well, anyway. So we went back to the manager's office, and I had to call my sister. Of course, she was over at my mom's house. And I told her, could she come back and get me? And she's like, well, why? What's wrong? And then I told her. And, man, so she came back to get me, and I had to go to my mom's house. Now, my mom and dad at that time, my three sisters, we were the oldest. So we were already gone. We had been gone. And I wasn't well enough to be left by myself yet, because I had to go back and forth and whatnot, but I needed, at least a month, to rest. And I had to recuperate. I had to go back to my mom's house. I was hopeless. I had nowhere to go. And he didn't give a damn. He did not care. And so I went back to my mom's house. My mom was still raising my two brothers. They were still at school. They were young at the time. They were still teenagers. And my mom's family was insane. They were crazy. And my husband went underground for a while because if my mom had told my two uncles, I had an uncle that lived on the corner. Him and my other uncle, they were nuts. And if my mom had told them what he had done, they would have gone straight to his house and burned it down and shot them as they came out. And that would have been the end of it, right there. But I told my mom, they weren't worth all of that. I mean, I didn't go to prison, so you shouldn't go. Nobody else should go to prison. So she, thank God, she never told him anything. But she was not happy. My dad was not happy. To this day, my one brother will ask me what really happened. Why did we break up? But I never really told him because he's a grown man now, and he still has friends and everything that still live in Pittsburgh. And they would go look up for him. And I don't need that. That was a long time ago, so I really don't talk about it. Well, anyway, so I had to go back home, and after a while, after I was strong enough, I wanted to, pay my own way. So I wanted to buy my own food. So my mom was like, well, okay, well, you need to go out and get some air. So come on with me. Because on Tuesdays and Fridays, Tuesdays my mom went to pay the bills every 2 weeks, but every Friday she did the food shopping. Well, this particular time, this happened on a Tuesday. So we went to the bank, and I had a girlfriend named Eleanor, and I always used to go to her, because we went to school together. So I went to her window, and my mom went first, and she, took out whatever little money that she needed or whatever. And then I told her, I said, well, I don't have any checks or anything, because, I told her what had happened. And so she looked up my account. Subs, that son of a bitch stole me blind. Do you hear me? Stole me blind. I had nothing in the bank but $3 just to keep the account open. What he did was that he stole the money, and he went, and his sister worked at a bank. He opened an account in his name and put all the money in that account under his name. I really couldn't get it. And then my mom was thinking about, I need to tell my brothers about this here. But I'm glad she didn't. Because that would have weighed heavy on me, because they weren't worth it. They weren't worth all that. So, but yeah, that's story when it dies, and I was sent back, I'm trying to do everything that I guess I'm supposed to be doing, because the next time, I don't want to come back. I kind of liked it there, Subs.
What am I going to do without you?
Well, but hopefully by that time, I'm not going to be here forever. Subs, I'm 10 years older than him. I'm not going to be here forever. But I try to do the best I can, while I am here. Of course, I'm just one person. I can't do everything. But, eventually, I'm going to leave. Because, there's nothing else I can do. I've done everything I can do. But hopefully, that's down the road, so after. But yeah, so, Richard went through something, but I went through something worse.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was left with everything. He just had to figure out a way to bring in money to keep it.
Keep from losing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I had nothing. I had absolutely nothing. And I had to start all over again. And that made me bitter. That somebody that I trusted would do that. And that's why I was so hesitant. That's why I waited 40 years before I remarried. Because I just didn't want to go through it anymore. And the others, like I said, they were good to me. They never did anything disrespectful. Nothing. But my gut just told me no. They're not the one. And I listened. But
And then I came along.
yeah, he came along years later.
And I swept you off your feet.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the story story of when I died, Sibs. So the second story I'm going to tell tonight, Sibs, I got my little lantern here to help me, my little spook lantern, to help me look over here. And I'm going to tell you about our haunted house.
Ooh, I heard this story. This is kind of spooky.
Now, when we were little, Subs, back in the day, okay, we were latchkey kids back in the day. You know, you had the little key around your neck, you know, and you came home, and sometimes your mom was there, sometimes, because everybody's mom was home back then. You know, the fathers were out working, but the moms were home. But sometimes my mom had to go shopping, or in those days, way back in the day, we didn't have a washer and dryer yet until we moved. You know, then we got, washers and dryers and all that stuff. But back in the day, you went to the laundry because it was only a dime to wash, and I think it was a quarter to dry, or was it a quarter to dry and a dime to wash? It was something, I don't remember what it was, but it was real cheap, so my mom went to the laundry, which wasn't too far from our house. It was just down on North Lane. So when we kids were there by ourselves, we would always hear, because we always used to play upstairs, watch TV, whatever, and we would always hear what sounded like somebody coming up the steps. So we would always think it was my mom, because it wasn't my dad, because my dad worked 2 jobs, so we knew it wasn't him. So we would always go to the steps and look over, and there was nobody there. So this would happen over and over and over. So after a while, we just got used to it, so we didn't pay it any attention, but we never forgot about it. So we would ask my mom when we were little. I mean, we were little when this was going on. We were little kids. We were like 6, 7, something like that. We were little kids. And we would always hear it, because you went in that house, you would go up the steps, there was a landing, and then you would go up more steps. And they would always come up, but we would never hear anybody go down. And this went on time and time again. After a while, but we were more curious because we were little kids. At that time, we didn't know nothing about ghosts or nothing like that. We would just wonder what it was. So when we told my mom about it, she said, oh, that's just the house settling. We'd be looking at you like, the house settling? That don't sound like footsteps. We didn't say anything. We just pretty much, kept it to ourselves. It was like, Mom don't believe us, so we didn't talk about it anymore. Not to her, But whenever it was, we never heard it when our parents were home. We only heard it when we were there by ourselves. And it was all the time. You would hear them come, something was walked step by step, come up the steps, go to the landing, come up to the top of the steps, and that was it. You never heard them go back down. So when we moved, and we got older, and we started talking about when we were little kids, and so I can't remember who it was that brought it up. And it was like, hey, Ma, remember when we used to tell you about we would hear footsteps coming up the steps and there was nobody there, and you kept telling us it was the house settling? She was like, yeah, she said, but I just didn't want to scare you guys. And we're like, well, they wouldn't have scared us. We just wanted to know what was going on. And here it turns out that there was a policeman that rented that house, because we didn't own the house. We were renting it. And he had a wife who was real depressed because she couldn't have children. So back in those days, they didn't have like in vitro. They didn't have none of that stuff. We're talking about the 60s. They didn't have none of that stuff. Birth control barely came out. So they didn't know anything about in vitro fertilization or none of these fertility drugs and all the stuff they have now. There was no such thing back then. So, she would see the kids, out playing, and I guess she had nieces and nephews or whatever, but she had none of her own. So she went into a deep depression. So one day, he came home and she had hung herself in my parents' bedroom. And apparently she was still in the house. And I guess she was looking after us to make sure everything was okay when it was just us in it, because there was 5 of us, you know. So nothing ever happened because we were, in those days, we lived in a row house, and it was in the middle. So like if anything happened, we could go over. Miss Rose was to the right and Miss Cora was to the left, so we could go to any of their houses if anything had happened or anything like that. But nothing ever did. Well, back in those days, it wasn't like it is now. And you know, you actually knew your neighbors. Your neighbors looked out for you. You know, if they saw you do something wrong, they called your parents. Your parents beat the shit out of you when you got home. You knew how it was back then. But yeah, but that's what it was. That, you know, she was still in the house. You know, and she was looking after us. I guess, you know, when my parents were out, she would look after us to make sure everything was okay. Yeah.
Since she didn't have kids, I guess she thought she made it like y'all were.
Well, she would look out for
kids.
us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She didn't have kids. Then, and when we were there, she had a house full of kids. You know, that she could look after. And stuff. I mean, I don't think she's still there now. You know, because that house, that was back in the late 60s. Like, we moved 1969. I was 10 years old when we moved. And
That was just cool.
yeah, he was just a little fart back then.
Wow, that's romantical.
I'm a cradle robber,
Oh
sis.
my. You
Yeah.
snatched me.
I snatched him right out the stroller.
Wow. Oh my. How's that for a visual?
Yeah. And ran down the street with him.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what happened. Well, I was only 10. Why couldn't
Yeah.
I? Robbed you and ran down the street. I was only 10.
You could have ganked me.
Oh, is that what it is? He got ganked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, many years later.
Yeah, many years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yep, that's 2 of the. Well, they're not really scary because I'll go from, like I said, the ones that are pretty much lighthearted, you know, to the scary ones. Of course, when we get to Halloween,
Yeah.
you know, because I got the titles written down here. I got the little scoop lamp, and you'll hear a ghost story about a wheelchair and what was under the bed. And I already did our haunted house. And you'll hear a story about a phone call and a call light in a certain room and Ouija boards. Don't mess with Ouija boards, subs. Stay away from them. And somebody who was brain dead. And I have one called It Grabbed Me. And I'm not talking about me, that's just the title.
Yeah.
You know, it grabbed.
She might think of some others along the way, but
Yeah,
these are the ones that she thought of so far.
Yeah.
So we're going to tell these probably every weekend. So stay tuned. 'Cause
Yeah.
they're pretty.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a tease of what's to come.
Yeah. So, you know, subs, if you have grandparents that are sickly, you know, whatever, and they're going to pass soon, I don't think, you know, there's anything to worry about. A lot of people are worried because they don't know what to expect, you know, but you don't have to be worried for them, you know, because for what I saw, you know, not everybody is going to see something horrible. You know, I didn't, and I'm sure there's millions of other people who didn't either. You know, so you don't have to be worried for, and they don't have to be worried for themselves. You know, depending on what kind of life you live. You know, and my life hasn't really been all that. You know, where I could I'm holier than thou. I'm far from it. You know, so if I have a chance, I know everybody else has a chance too. You know, so whatever. You know, I was sent back. Like I'm sure other people were ahead of me, or maybe right now. I mean, who knows? You know, for a reason. So, you know, whatever that reason is, I'm here until I fulfill whatever it is I'm supposed to fulfill. You know, and then, you know, who knows after that. But that's week 1, Sibs.
Yep.
With me in my witch hat.
Woo! You look beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. So until the next weekend
Yeah.
for Spook Stories.
Yep, next week, Sibs.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
So
Stay tuned, Sibs.
until then.
Boo.
Boo! Adios.